to their show live on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome. It's Friday night, and I know nobody's on right now, so we have Andrea Joyce
Yes.
here, our special guest tonight, and we're going to talk about her book. I put her a link to. Uh, that's your link right there.
That's correct.
Yep. And so we have her link if you want to check out her all her information, where her books are, titles, and all of that stuff. You can go to that website. Um, yep.
Sorry.
So we are going to. It's okay. Nobody's on yet. We're going to be talking about storms, the storms that we all face. There is not one person out here that doesn't face a storm at one point in their lives. And so I think this will be a good topic to help everybody. So when you start to come on, make sure you click like and share this video and just check in and let us know how your week has been. In Atlanta, it is chilly. I don't know what the weather is doing, Andrea.
We're back to winter. Why doesn't winter want to break up with us?
I don't know, but you know what? The pollen is here because I am struggling with the
Oh no.
allergies and boy, yeah. So and I have it bad.
Oh
So,
no.
oh yeah, I think usually I have to go probably mid-April. I usually have to go to like an urgent care and get like eye drops
Oh
because
no.
yeah, my
No.
eyes get really irritated.
I'm
So
so sorry. We got to make sure you're okay.
yeah. So this time is a struggle. And it's always on my birthday. My birthday is April 15th. So
Oh
I'm
no.
usually
Tax day. Well, it used to be tax day. I don't know what tax day is anymore.
right. They move it around so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
happy
Yep.
early birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I lose track of them now. I'm getting up there. So
Yeah, I understand. I lied so much about my birthday that one year I actually thought I was a year younger than I actually was going to be. And
oh,
my mom was
wow.
like, "No, that's not how old you are." I was like, "Yes, I am." And I went and did the math, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should stop lying."
Oh, well, whatever works for you. You know, my nieces asked my sister, they was like, how old is Fred?
Well, you look really young, so you can get away with it. You look
Thank
like you
you.
can still be in your 20s, so
Oh,
you're
well,
good.
wow.
Yeah, you do. So that's
Thank
good.
you.
When you start getting these silvers in the front, people are like, yeah, 21, you say? And your oldest is 27. Okay, all right. Hmm.
They try to pop up there every now and then in my little. Sorry, there's a fire truck. I don't know if you could hear it. A fire truck just went by.
Uh-huh. Well, at least
Yep.
we know they're working.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, you're what, a life coach, a screenwriter, all of these things.
Minister. Yeah.
Minister. Wow.
Yeah. So they all tie together, even though they don't sound like they should, but it all, I do the same thing no matter what area. It's helping people to be better and to believe in themselves. That's just my pure goal.
Yeah. I see that though. I can see where they kind of intertwine and work together to achieve the big goal, like you just said, of working with people, helping people, especially ministry, right?
Hmm.
So, do you go to a church here?
I do. I go to the Believer's House. It's downtown Atlanta. Reverend Q Gatson is our pastor. It's
Okay.
really good. I like it because he's in his 30s. And so he teaches from real life. Like he says stuff that you and I would talk about,
Okay.
not
Okay.
like what our mom and them would talk about.
Right. Right.
And so I love it. It's on our level. He says stuff and you'll be like, oh, was he in my house last night? You're like, God, are you telling on me? Why you don't mind your business? Like I have threatened him a couple of times to blacken his eye because I'm like, you just in my business.
All in
And
it.
all in it. I'm like,
What's the
you
name?
could have
I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm trying to
you
find my
do.
pen so I can write it
I'll send
down.
you a link.
Okay.
We're actually opening up this Sunday because this is Palm Sunday. We've been,
Mhm.
limited people to come in just to be sure of how COVID was and to,
Right. Right.
have the seating together. So we
Mhm.
fully open this Sunday, and we'd love to have you. Our service is at 11 a.m. and it's over at 12:15.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no
Yeah.
long-winded services like I grew
You
up
remember
with.
them church services,
Oh
right?
yeah,
3 o'clock,
yeah.
your stomach growling. The church finally let up. Then your mama in there on the parking lot committee, sitting there talking to every person. You're like, I just want to go home. 4 or
Or
5 o'clock.
selling baked goods. My mom and them sold baked goods
Yes. Oh my
after
gosh.
church.
The bake sale. Always the
Yep,
bake sale.
yep. Hey Karen, how are you?
Hi, Karen.
Karen's on a YouTube side,
Okay.
so there's somebody else out there too. Because yeah, but everybody usually comes in around this time because I usually start like at 8:40 to give everybody a chance to come in from work. So Karen, how
Mhm.
has your work week been? I know my work week went by kind of fast, sorta, kinda. What about yours, Andrew? You had to take a deep breath.
It's been a week. A lot has happened this week, just crazy things. And I'm just like, that storm we had, the 2 day storm,
Oh yeah.
it crippled me because my 9 to 5 is shopping for people. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I have to carry like cases of water and bags and things. And I was like, I can't do it in the storm. And then it was flooded in the areas that I shop in. So I couldn't even get there. So it was like, I need to make money because bills don't stop.
Right, right.
But I couldn't even get it. She said it went by fast.
Mhm.
That's why I didn't even know it was Friday today.
Yeah,
If
it
it
did
hadn't
go
been for
by.
you, Fred, I thought we were on Wednesday. I was like, what do you mean? What? I had to do that on Friday. I was like, run.
Oh, really? You just it kind of jumped. Wow.
I had just pulled up, no lie. When
Uh-huh.
I got your message, I was like, my daughter was like, go. I was gone. You could have called me slow, Joe. And I was like, okay, hurry up.
Mhm.
I didn't know what day we were on. It's been a crazy
Wow.
week.
Wow, wow.
Thank you, Karen. No, they don't. Mm-mm. I wish they did. They don't even stop when you die.
They surely don't. They
They
still
come
be
after
trying to
the
collect.
kids. Right.
Uh-huh.
He's like, oh, so sorry for your loss. By the way, she owed us.
$50,000 on this student loan or whatever. Yep.
Right, exactly. I was like, I thought we were supposed to get relief from the student loan. Why are they
Nope.
still sending me emails? Okay, get started on your payment. No, we ain't start yet. Go on, sit
I
down.
think they put mine on deferment. Like,
Really?
uh-huh.
I just got an email from one of the big ones. I'm not gonna say their name. I'm not gonna put them on blast because I'm pretty sure they weren't supposed to email me. And they was like,
Uh-huh.
"Get started on your payments." I was like, "I sure won't because they're supposed to be paused right now."
Right. Everybody's supposed to be on pause. Yep. I would just they just go ahead and get rid of them. Period. Education should be free, right?
It should be exactly, especially for a person like me who, I went to school but didn't go to school at the same
Uh-huh.
time. Was supposed to
Mhm.
be in class but was in the dorm room. People like
Oh.
me, maybe we shouldn't
Uh-huh.
charge me because I didn't get the full
You
educational
didn't get the
advancement.
full effect.
Right. My mother's probably
Oh.
like, oh God, why is she telling the world this? Get her off right now.
Oh, we've all been through school stuff. I remember 25. I was in school, but my mind wasn't there. So I think I stopped for a little while. And then as I got older, I went back and finished everything. But for a while there, yeah, it was just, I think we all, and I tell my clients that because most of them are younger, 20, 20. I'm like, you're going to go through these storms. You're going to be broke. You're going to be, trying to rob, what do they say, Peter and Paul,
Pay,
whatever that.
Rob Peter to
Uh-huh.
pay Paul.
Paul.
Yes.
And so I said, you're going to go through that. I said, but if you kind of, keep moving and keep pushing forward, it eventually all come together at some point.
Yeah, that's a true
So,
statement. It starts to come
yeah.
together. My thing was, I remember knocking on 30 and I went through this huge depression
Hmm.
because I knew my life. I had my life listed. Lawyer, married by 25, 2 kids, a boy, a girl, a dog, the whole house with the white
The
picket fence.
white picket fence. Hmm.
And I looked at 30 and I was single. I was like, wait, I did have kids, I was divorced, but I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not a lawyer. What happened? And I just went through this whole depression. I dyed my hair orange, like an orange blonde. I look like Heat Miser. Remember Heat Miser?
Uh-huh, I do.
My hair was up, and I lost my mind. My kids were like, huh. Well, I only had one child at that time. She was
Uh-huh.
just like, my hair was the color of flames. The fire, you remember when you turn the
Wow.
stove on and
Yeah.
that orange,
Uh-huh.
that was my hair. And I was just like, I'm dying. My life is not what I want it to be. And I think a lot of people go through that around that age.
Yep. Because I think they put this time, and I've witnessed this in a lot of my sessions. We all have this little timeline in our head that we have to meet these milestones. By 30, I got to do this. By 40, I got to do this. By 25, I got to do this. And I'm like, no, that's putting too much pressure on yourself. Who created that? And you don't have to stick by it, because that does lead to depression. If you look around and then you're like, hey, you feel like you haven't done anything. But if you come to me, I'm going to point out the positive things that you have done that you're not even giving yourself credit for. You're just kind of so hard on yourself. But we all go through those periods. That's what I tell my younger clients all the time. Like, I struggled, you know, just struggling to pay a car payment, struggling to pay rent, all of
Yes.
that stuff. So it comes
I wish
together.
you were there for me because I went
Hmm.
through it for a whole year and a half. When I woke up from that year and a half, I was married to somebody. I was like, who are you? Where'd you
Wow.
come from? I had two kids. I'm like, wait a minute. wait, what happened? I
Mhm,
was like,
mhm.
oh my gosh, from 30 to almost 32. I don't remember. I just remember waking up and I was married and I had a child and a child on the way.
Wow.
It
So it's
was,
almost like you were living life like on autopilot,
I
like
was,
just
I
going through
was.
the motions, but not really connected to
No,
yourself and the environment.
no. So I applaud you and I'm grateful that you're there so people can talk to you because that I don't think there's anything bigger than that, because me turning 40, I was okay. I was cool. I was like, okay, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm further ahead than where I was.
Was. Mhm.
Now I'm about to hit 50 and I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm good. Everything is not in line, but I'm starting to make, like I'm writing books. I'm having
Right.
a podcast. I see the fruit of my labor. So I'm really good with it. I'm like, yay for 50. I was not like that at 30. Not at
Yeah.
all.
Cuz I
So
think you're still finding yourself at 30. You're still like in limbo with the younger self, and then you're approaching the older self, but you're not quite
mm,
there. And so it's just a, I don't know, and I see it. That's the age where most of my clients are just like really struggling.
wow.
So
Thank
because,
goodness for you.
yeah, and I love doing it because I'm like, I struggled. And so when they hear that, we call it self-disclosure in mental health. When I self-disclose the stuff that I've been through, and you can see that light bulb going on, and then we try to work through it. Well, how can we get out of that and get
Hmm.
on a good path to, a better path? But yeah, it was. Ooh, I tell people that's why it's never good to judge other
Yeah,
people, because
yeah.
you never know what they're going through. And even though you may look at me now and be like, "Ooh," or look at you now and say, "Oh, they got it together," but you don't know all of the stuff or the
To get
storms
here.
that we did use and experience to get here, right? And that leads us. We're going to go ahead and start. Um, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Andrea Joyce, and tell us about a little bit about yourself, and then how you got into writing, and then we'll open the floors for questions and all of that stuff.
Okay. Fred, thank you so much for having me. First and
Yes.
foremost, I have to give you honor because this is possible because of you doing a commercial for you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'm Andrea. I'm originally from Patterson, New Jersey. I am, I like to call myself an oxymoron because
Okay.
for everything I can say about myself, I can say the opposite.
Hmm.
So it depends. So, yes, I'm a Libra. I am that balance. So some
Okay.
days it's here, some days it teeter tots, So um today I can feel one day, and tomorrow you can ask me the same thing, and I'll be like, "Who said yes to that? No, that was mm-mm." And my kids are like, "She's crazy." Some help is needed, but it really
Mhm.
is that balance. Um, I like peace by nature. I want peace, but I will go to war to get peace. And so there are times that in my life where I chose the not so smart route,
Mhm.
but my ultimate goal was something that I had to choose that.
Okay.
Um, I would have liked to have done things more in the box and by the book, but I was never that person. I was very rebellious growing up. My childhood was crazy. My parents, well, that goes into the book. My parents divorced when I was about 4.
Okay.
And I didn't understand what divorce was. I just knew one day daddy wasn't there. And then my mom began dating someone else, and I liked him a lot. And they got married, and I wanted him to be my dad. I wanted to have the same last name. And my biological father popped back in, and
Oh
there was a
wow.
lot of mind games. But when you're a kid, you don't understand that the mind games. You just know this is
Right.
daddy, and daddy's telling you that's not your father. Don't listen to him. Don't call him dad. That's not, and so you're going through this push me, pull you thing because you want it, but you don't want to hurt this one's feelings. And so I went through a lot of anger, and I was angry
Mhm.
at everybody. I was angry with my mother because it's your fault that my biological father isn't here, because that's what he told me. I'm mad
Uh-huh.
at my biological father because you come around maybe once, twice a year, if that. I'm mad
Wow.
at you because you're breaking my heart because you promised me things and then you don't do it. And
Mhm.
so then I have this great dad that I can't love because I feel like a traitor. If I love you and give you the best of me, then that's going to keep my biological father away. So for years, up until I was about 16, I went through this merry-go-round of feelings that were negative, and I acted out because I knew if I acted out, dad would show up,
And you get that attention. That was
that
the
attention. So I acted out, got into a lot of trouble, and I would escape into this
Mhm.
world. And
Mhm.
in this world, it was my room. I would close the door. I had like $1 million. I had Barbie dolls up until the age of 16. I'm just going to go ahead and confess it now. Go ahead.
What did they mean to you, those Barbie dolls? Having those Barbie dolls?
They were like my performers.
Okay.
So I had the Barbie that had a good day. I had the angry Barbie. I had the fashionable rich Barbie that had no problems. I had the Barbie that couldn't handle life. So they all represented something different.
Mhm.
Um, if I got angry, I cut their hair off. I'm telling you, I was angry. Then I get mad because why do I have a bald headed Barbie? I'm like, wait, I forgot. I'm
Mhm.
messing up Barbie, so now I got to go replace it. So I stopped doing the hair cutting. But
Okay.
they were my friends where I could really be honest with. Even though I grew up around a lot of friends, we had the neighborhood. And the
Right.
neighborhood, we came outside and played together, but
Yep.
nobody really knew me because I became the clown. So now I'm starting to joke on people. I'm teasing people. I'm the class clown. I'm getting kicked out of class, going to the principal's office because for me, being a dark skinned woman, a
Mhm.
girl, I
Uh-huh.
got talked about. I got called all the tar babies and the blackie and the midnight, and it hurt me. So I
Wow.
realized in order for my feelings not to be hurt, I needed to hurt other people's feelings first.
First.
So now I began talking about, okay, I can't change my skin, but can you change those yellow teeth?
Got you.
So I started doing those things. And then I wanted to have friends, so I had to be funny.
Mhm.
So at the age of about 8, I started wearing a mask. And the mask was me pretending everything is good. I'm in a good place, but I'm really not. However, I started writing.
Uh-huh.
I would write little letters. I won't even call them short stories, but how I was feeling. I had a diary. and I filled up diaries. By the time I was about 16, I had about 12 diaries that were filled. And I
Mhm.
would just write. That was my escape. I would pretend that in my room, everything was perfect. I had a mom and dad like regular kids, no divorce. My name was the same last name as my parents. My brother and I had the same parents. Everything was okay as long as I stayed in the corner of my room. That's where my Barbies were. That's where my books were. And I just stayed there. When I came outside, I had to become the great pretender.
Gotcha. So it was safe. That was your safe space. Is that room? How do you feel like being in the middle of a divorce impacted you? Like, did you feel like you had to please one while you were in their presence? Like, please your dad while you were in his presence, and then try to please your mom while you were in. Because I have a client going through this right now, so it's I'm glad that you're sharing that story. Yeah.
I had to please my dad. I never cared about my mother. I
Oh,
didn't care
so
about pleasing her.
okay.
She and I were not close because in me, I felt growing up that she didn't like me. I felt like she blamed me. I looked like my father. So she would say
Oh.
things like, "You're just like your father." You're whatever the negative thing was. She said a lot of negative stuff about my dad. So she didn't mean to. I don't even think she knew what she was saying, but I honestly, if we were to keep it a buck, I don't
Uh-huh.
believe my mother healed from that divorce before she entered into another relationship because she was very angry. She was very um
Resentful.
yeah, and she had like a hair trigger temper. And so you didn't know. We walked on eggshells a lot. And so we
Wow.
weren't sure which mom we were going to get this day. Was she
Mhm.
going to be the nice one or was she going to be the one that's yelling and cussing and and my I got that from my mother. I had that same temper.
That
And
temper. Mhm.
so I wasn't so worried about pleasing her. I was mad with her. I
Mhm.
thought all of my problems were because of her.
It was
So
her
I didn't
fault.
care about pleasing her, but I did care about pleasing my bonus dad.
Oh.
I was a daddy's girl on both accounts, from my biological side and from my bonus side. So he and I would stay up to like 1 o'clock in the morning. He would tell me about his growing up. I would have my Nancy Drew books. I was an avid reader. I got lost in the words of books. So I read everything: Little Women, Little Men, all the classics, A Tale of Two
Mhm.
Cities. He gave me Black Boy, Native Son, the autobiography of Malcolm X. So I would be reading, and this would be me. This would be me. I
Uh-huh.
would be like this, listening to his stories with food in front of me every night. And we had a great time. And we got so
Wow.
close. And so my loyalty was to him than my biological father. And it
Wow.
became where it was a butting of
A
heads
conflict.
because
Mhm.
my biological father wanted his spot back. And he
Wow.
was going to use me to get it.
Wow.
Yeah. So the person, your client now, just let them know you can't please. Let it go.
Yeah, and I tell them you don't take sides. Just kind of be, and then when you need to be by yourself and do self-care, kind of go and do
Yeah.
that and make sure you're taking care of yourself because and they're teenagers, so adults, we kind of get lost. Like you said, your mom was struggling with the divorce, but she didn't face it. She just went from one relationship to the next just to avoid that. So, and that was one question. Did you ever see a therapist growing up, or was that?
Oh no, that was
Yeah.
taboo back then.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, I'm a 70s baby.
Yep.
Absolutely not. I was born in 72. So I grew
Hmm.
up in the 80s. If you were to see a therapist, then you were crazy. You were
I
to
wrote
go
about
see
that in my
Metcalf.
book. Yep.
Yeah, that was ooh, don't say therapy. Like I'm so happy with
Hmm.
where we are now, where
Yep.
people are getting self-care. That's the first book I wrote actually. It was about self-care.
Okay.
Um I'm glad people are getting putting themselves first, prioritizing themselves, going to get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. To me, that's the bravest thing you can do, to say,
It
I
is.
can't handle all of this. And instead of snap, crackling, popping off on somebody, go get some help.
which is what most people do, and they don't realize why they're doing it. You have allowed so much stuff to build up inside of you that as soon as someone says something that's really not even a big deal, and you're exploding. And I wish there was like a requirement that some everybody had to at least have 1 or 2 sessions of therapy.
Absolutely.
I really do.
And I wish insurance was even better with therapy.
Right, right.
They're not as good. They could be so much better. Just
Yeah.
like you want us to go to our PCP, there
Yep.
should be a mandate for therapy too. I agree with you 100%. I had
Yeah.
to I was about to say self medicate. That's not what I had to do. I had to do therapy on myself.
Uh-huh.
And writing the books, it
It's
opened up.
therapeutic. Mhm.
It was very therapeutic, and it helped me to face some things that I buried. I was
Mhm.
that angry. I used to call myself the Incredible Hulk because
Wow.
you wouldn't like me when I was angry. I lost all consciousness when I was angry, and I just hurt. And so I needed help. I was
Mhm.
a volcano ready to just explode on people, and it would be innocent people. Somebody who might have said something that wasn't anything. I would just blow up instead of talking to the father that left me and, would promise to come pick me up. And I'm sitting there dressed up, waiting, looking at every car going like this, and him
Wow.
never showing up. That's who
Wow.
needed to get the information.
Right.
So, okay, I'm gonna stop coming out of camera. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're okay. You still in there.
I
You're
see me moving. I'm just like,
You're getting excited. But that's what people don't realize. Your parents teach you how to be who you are. And what I tell clients is the way you solve problems as a child, you still try to do that as an adult. And that will be a big conflict. And what I mean is, like, say, for instance, if for you, and you tell me if you did this for a while, when there was a problem in adulthood, did you run into a quiet space and try to hide from that thing that's going on?
oh, I would be MIA.
Yep.
There would be no phone calls, no text messages. I would be in a corner of my bed. That's so
Mhm.
funny you say that. I absolutely kept that corner mentality,
Yep.
and nothing could penetrate through that corner. I wouldn't
Yeah.
let the world in,
Yeah.
not
Because
even
that's the
my
way you.
kids, and that's the bad part.
Yeah. Because that's the way you solve problems when you were growing up, and it worked. It kept the confusion out there, and you were able to stay in and be safe from that. Yeah. I tell people all the time the way we learned to solve when we were younger. That's me. I'll take off. Like if there's conflict, I'm the same way. I'll go and be by myself because then there's peace. Like you said
Yeah,
earlier, your goal is to get peace. And
yes.
whatever way that is, that's the way I would do it when I was growing up too, is escape. I think most people
Hmm.
do. Interesting stuff. Any questions out there, y'all? If you have questions, you can just put them up and I will put them on the screen. Yeah, so how did you so seeing past the storm, is that your first book?
My third.
Your third. What made you write this one?
Whew, okay, so
Oh no.
I thought I was going to do a one and done because I'm a fiction writer. So my first ever book is a fiction book. I haven't self-published it yet. However, I went into a group to find out how to self-publish. I didn't know what to do. I knew I didn't want a publisher. I heard, so many horror stories how they change your books, and I wasn't ready for that. I just wanted to publish this book that I had written. So I
Uh-huh.
went into a group that was headed by Lady Ty the Great, Ty Johnson.
Okay.
Um, and so in the group, she was talking about trauma, how to triumph through your trauma. And I was like, that's not what I came here for. I don't have any trauma. I'm great.
Uh-huh.
I just
Mhm.
want to know how to self publish and I'm out. Well, being in the group, the funniest thing happened. I heard God's voice say, you're going to write another book. Now, me, I'm thinking another fiction book, great, because that's what I'm in here for. And
Uh-huh.
he was like, get your notebook and your pen. And he had me start writing down 31 ways to self care. I was like, self care is not fiction. that's nonfiction. That's self help. I don't do
Right.
that. That's
Uh-huh.
not what I write. I like to write fantasy. Let's talk about what could be instead of what I'm going through. I don't want to. So, my first book is 31 Ways to Self Care, and that's
Uh-huh.
on my website too, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And hey, Pat
Hey,
and
Pat.
Sto, I wrote it helping people to care for themselves. And these were the steps I've taken. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't a fiction book at all because everything that's in 31 Ways to Self Care, I've actually practiced in order to prioritize myself and to care for myself so I could be in a better place. So I wrote the book and I was
Mhm.
like, this is not my plan. It was definitely God's plan. And I, sent it out and it was well received. It's still being well received, which thank you everybody who buys the book. Um, and when I finished it, I was ready to get back to the fiction.
Uh-huh.
And then God said, there was one part of your book you didn't touch on enough. And I was like, really, God? There's something else? And he said, forgiveness. And I was like, I did talk about forgiveness. See, it's right here. And he said,
Uh-huh.
no, I need you to go deeper. So I put together a pamphlet. It's a short book. It's about 20 pages, 24 pages. And it talks about how to really forgive because I had to forgive my biological father. That was the biggest forgiveness. After
Uh-huh.
forgiving him, it was easier to forgive other people because that was the one. And so I put down the steps that I actually took to forgive my father. I had been on a journey to forgive him since the age of 16. I didn't forgive him until I was in my mid 30s.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that relationship just opened up so many negative relationships in my life, so many toxic relationships. And because I hadn't forgiven him, I couldn't move forward. And I didn't want to be in that place. One
Say
thing
that
my mother,
again, because I
oh,
don't think people realize that.
without forgiving, you cannot move forward. You can't. I was
Yeah.
stuck. I was still that little girl in the window. I had a
Yep.
grown up body. I had 3 kids, but I was still that little girl. And because of it, I got in relationships purposely not to be in a relationship with someone like my father. But guess what?
They
I
were
was in
just
relationships with people just like my
I,
father.
I see that so many times because you know what? A big thing that you were going through too is the disappointment. Like every time you were sitting there and you had expectations that dad was going to come and he didn't come, that actually, and I tell people that as parents, if you're a parent and you have a young child, that is the biggest thing that like creates low self esteem, all of those things because you're expecting this thing to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, you feel like I did something wrong or, and that kills your self esteem. So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt,
Oh
but
no, that was good. My bar was down here.
uh-huh.
People had bars that okay, where I'm like, can you see my hands? People had
Yeah.
bars up here. My bars were down here. I didn't have an expectation. I settled. Never mind, I already had low self-esteem because of my complexion. So
Right.
now my first heartbreak was my father. You don't
Right.
rebound from that. You have to
Right.
do the work for that. And I didn't. So once I was able to admit and accept, acknowledge some things about my father's relationship, our relationship, I was able to forgive. Now, I want to say this and be clear about it. I
Okay.
forgave him before he ever asked to be forgiven. I forgave him years before he asked for forgiveness. The one time I tried to forgive by myself, I called him because I wanted to tell him everything and get it out and let's talk it up, let's chop it up. He
Mhm.
said to me, I don't want to talk about it. I refused to talk about it and hung up the phone on me. I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And that, I was a firecracker. That really, I was done with him. He was dead to me. I didn't want to hear about him. I didn't want to talk about him. I didn't, no, no, mm-mm. He was dead to me when he would not allow me to get it out. And I couldn't believe he had the audacity to do that. But growing up, I've heard others say that. When they go to somebody, they want to talk about what's wrong. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk about it right now. I can't handle that.
Yep.
That's in the past.
Yep. And
And
that's what
that,
they want you to do. They want you to cover it up and keep it moving. Everything's good. That happened in the past. No, there's still remnants of it today. So
Yes.
Pat was saying amen. She agreed. Uh, Karen says turning 30 is like someone dropped you on a roller coaster,
Ooh, yes.
blindfolded. What did you do to move forward after you woke up and found that you were married with a child and one on the way?
Pat. Oh, Karen.
Karen. Hmm.
Let me tell you, for me, I went into a depression. I didn't even realize that I had postpartum depression. I was
Wow.
depressed in general. But after I had my son, I had postpartum depression. I didn't know it. And my doctor didn't mention it. So here we go with something else I was going through that there was no help for. I found myself one day standing outside of my house, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood. I stood on the corner and just stood there. I just stood staring out. And I didn't have an idea how I got there.
Oh
My
wow.
son was in the house crying. I was with someone who I really did not know that well. I did not love. And he was doing everything disrespectfully that he could. And I was standing outside and I was just looking up in the sky. I didn't even have a close relationship with God yet. I didn't
Hmm.
even really know you could have a relationship with God yet. So this was Andrea. All of this until I was about 35. I never had a relationship with God like that. Even though I went to church, I just didn't understand it. I
Hmm.
was standing outside and I was looking up. And you know the scripture that says, I looked up to the hills from whence cometh my
Cometh
help.
my health.
I
Hmm.
really believe I was doing that. I just didn't know what I was doing. And I stood there and I looked up and I just cried. My
Hmm.
neighbors were passing by and they were honking the horn, waving. I didn't even see them. It was just me standing there because I was so upset. I didn't want to put my hands on my son. I didn't want to pick him up to stop him from crying and be angry and then later find myself in jail because I didn't know where I was in my emotion.
Wow.
So I stood outside and I stayed there for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, because it was light when I went outside. It was dusk when I finally breathed. I wasn't breathing. I mean, you have to naturally breathe, but I mean that
You weren't intentionally focused on it. You were
and
just.
3 hours later, it was dusk before I was able to do that. And I promised myself some way, somehow, I was going to get out of the situation that I was in. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I was going to get out of it. Now, this is when my son was a newborn.
Okay.
I found out 3 or 4 months later, I was pregnant again.
Hmm.
I didn't understand, first of all, how I was pregnant because I was like, wait, don't you have to have sex to get pregnant? When did I didn't even remember sleeping with him. This is
Hmm.
how bad it was. And
So
I was
you were
like,
really on autopilot, just going through the
yeah.
motions.
And I had no idea because I swore to the doctor, I said, we didn't have sex. I can't be pregnant. My name's not Mary. I'm sure. However,
Uh
I
huh.
don't understand. She wouldn't let me out of her office. I threw chairs and everything in her office because I was having a meltdown. And she wouldn't let me
Wow.
leave because she was scared of what I would do to myself. And so when I found out that I was having my third child, it was at that moment, Karen, that I said, something has to give, something has to change. I can't live like this. I was in hell and I couldn't, it was going to be either me, and this
Uh
is
huh.
real, Karen, or my ex. One of us was going to make it out. And it was not going to be me losing. And so my mindset began, what can I do to get out of this situation? What steps do I have to take? Because I had walked away from a job. I walked away from the job because my husband said he would never work as long as I worked and as long as I had to pay the bills. He refused to work. He refused to take care of the house. He refused to take care of our child. So I decided to walk away from a very good paying job and sit at home because I refused
To
to
take
support
care.
him when
Uh
he was
huh.
sitting on the couch playing video games. And when he wasn't on the couch playing video games, he was cheating.
Wow.
I got so many phone calls, I'm with your husband. It became a joke. I would sit and laugh. I'm like, okay, You're the third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 20th, and I'm not exaggerating when I say the numbers.
Wow.
It was always a woman calling a different woman. When my dad passed, my bonus father passed away in 2004. I
Okay.
went to his funeral because my sister came and got me. My ex-husband would not give me the money to go.
Wow.
And so my sister came and got me. And while we were burying my father, a woman called and said, I'm laying with your husband right now.
Oh no.
I
Yeah,
have to
how
laugh now because
how did
it was
how
the
did
grace of God.
yeah, cuz that how did was his character like your dad? Were they similar? Like your biological
Not
dad?
biological. Not ready
Dang.
to be in a relationship, not mature, not taking care of responsibilities, going from one thing to another, cheating. All of my biological father.
So check,
Yes.
check, check. Okay.
Yes. So you see
Uh-huh.
what we're talking about. I
Mhm.
definitely married the person I did not want to marry. I didn't want anybody like my father. I got him, but I got him like extreme. This was.
Wow.
And so right before my dad passed, on his deathbed, I didn't know it was his deathbed. He called me over and he said, now I kept my relationship away from my parents. I didn't want them to know how bad of a relationship I was in. He
Mhm.
called me over and he said, if a man cannot treat you as good as I have treated you, walk away. And I
Mhm.
just burst and he held me. I just crumpled in his arms because I didn't even know he knew I was in a bad relationship. I
Wow.
purposely separated from my family so they wouldn't know because I felt so embarrassed. And I went through this whole slump. You don't want to be a failure. You don't
Right.
want to disappoint your family. You have this, and it's like, and for him to know it blew my mind. But the words that he said, because not my biological, my bonus dad had
Uh-huh.
treated me like a queen. My mother was the queen. I was the princess.
Right.
He did everything for me. I never wanted no attention, affection. I got it all. And
Mhm.
so for him to say, if you don't get treated like this, walk away,
Walk
that's all I
away.
needed.
Mhm.
So when he passed away and that phone call came, it was at that moment I said, all right,
Time to mhm.
I'm ready. He's got to go. And I was pregnant with my youngest daughter one day.
Mhm.
Um, we had gotten into an argument, and that argument turned violent. But here's the thing, the violence came from me. I started throwing dishes and glasses and cups and things, and he was trying to hold me, and the
Uh-huh.
fury unleashed. And I became
You
Mike Tyson.
exploded. Yeah. Cuz you were holding
For
all that stuff in, right? Yeah.
all these years, and I just unleashed. And when the police came, they came to arrest him because they heard that violence through the door. But when they looked, I was the one standing up. He was in the corner like this, bleeding. And
Wow.
they looked at me and they were like, mind you, my ex-husband was an ex-football player.
Oh wow.
And it was like, ma'am, um,
What's going on?
what happened? And
Mhm.
you could tell they were like uncomfortable, but it was violence. And so
Mhm.
they were going to arrest me and take me to jail. I was pregnant with my third child. And I
Wow.
was like, I'm going to jail. But remember what I spoke. I said, one of us is not going to make it. Remember, I
Mhm.
said this. I had this, I didn't know it was going to be this. I just knew I needed to get out. And so it just so happened that my ex's mom was affiliated with the police, and she came in and she said, "No, this let's just separate them. He's not going to press charges. Let's just go and just walk away from it." And when I tell you, I fell to my knees and I began crying
Uh-huh.
because I had never been this angry. Where I have blacked out before in anger, but to the point where he was bleeding. When I tell you it was bad, I went
Wow.
down and laid down on my stomach. I'm pregnant now, but I couldn't, the tears, I couldn't control myself. And I
Mhm.
laid down and I found out later that's called being prostrate before God. I didn't even know what that was.
Wow.
And I laid out and I screamed and I said, God, you got to handle this. I can't take it. I'm either going to die or kill someone. You got, and that was what I screamed.
Mhm.
And maybe 2 weeks later, he got called back into the military.
To get out of your life. Yeah.
Pretty soon. So,
Yes.
Karen, that's the answer. I had to go through some of the worst things in my life, but my goal was to not stay there. Remember, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car because he wrecked my car because he was with some woman. I didn't have really a place to stay because that our both of our names were on there, but they wanted to they couldn't have the both of us here. We
Right.
couldn't be in the
They
same
they had to
place.
separate.
Hmm. And so at the lowest, God came in exactly, Karen. Boy, his protection. He favored me from a long time ago in my mother's stomach. I say that because some of the
Mhm.
things that have happened that I have um, survived, I know his favor is over me. But then he really showed me who he was, though I didn't know this relationship thing yet. But he
Wow.
showed me who he was in that. And that's what
Mhm.
changed everything for me.
So, did you forgive your dad before this or after this situation?
After.
After. So the universe and God was still trying to show you, like, you have not dealt with this, and I am not going to go away until you are face to face with this situation again, so that you understand how it has impacted your life and that you can move forward. And
That's
that's,
right. That's
yep.
right. I couldn't get past it. There was no getting past not forgiving. I had to forgive. And it
Wow.
wasn't until maybe like 5, 6 years later when the forgiveness happened. And
Mhm.
it was a class that I took in church. It was called Making Peace with Your Past.
Mhm.
It's a book written by Tim Sledge. We had a small group, and it was in that group where we confessed our real feelings that I was able to forgive my father. I tell everybody on the planet that's a book you should go through. Making Peace with Your Past is so important. I got it. I actually do a small group online on Zoom once a year.
Okay.
I do Making Peace with Your Past. I facilitate it. And then Moving Beyond Your Past. I do that the second half of the year. It's a 13-week course. Even if you do it on your own, when I tell you it's eye opening because it talks about how our past affects us with fear of failure,
Yes.
fear of success, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, different things. And it helps you to see who you really are. So if you have never taken it, buy the book. Yeah, forgiveness is so important, Pat. When I tell you forgiveness, if you don't have forgiveness, you will never have peace. I would be up at night, nightmares, pacing the floor, all of this bubbling up because I didn't forgive. Forgiveness, once
Wow.
I forgave, I had peace, I had joy. Things that we talk about, I felt them because I no longer had this resentment. That resentment makes you bitter. And that
Mhm.
bitterness spreads in all areas of your life. You might have a problem with JoJo on the job. Next thing, you got a problem with your husband. You got a problem with your children. You got a problem in the store just waiting in line.
Yep. See, and those are the people we run into every day, and you're looking at them like, what is going on? That thing was not that serious for you to explode like that. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah. Tackling forgiveness is very important. So to get back to how we started this question, this my 20 paragraph story. Once I wrote the forgiveness book, I thought I was done again.
Uh-huh.
I was like, yes, we talked about forgiveness, back to fiction. And God said, oh, by the way, when you wrote 31 Ways to Self Care, and you talk, the first thing I talk about in the book is see me, see yourself.
Uh-huh.
So you physically look at yourself because a lot of us don't. A lot of us have changed physically, but we think we still look the same like we did 10 years ago. Our lips may be different. We may have the silvers. And
Uh-huh.
so I'm like, go in your bathroom or wherever your mirror is, unclothed and look at yourself. See what you like. See some things
Self-reflection.
you might not like that you may want to change.
Mhm.
But see yourself. So that was step one. But step two was look inside. And so we don't like to be honest about our feelings and emotions. We pretend even to our, yes, self high five. Oh, wrong hand. I'm trying to high five you. We
Whoop.
lie to ourselves. Okay, here we go.
Okay,
Okay, do
there
it
you go.
again. Okay, my hand is somewhere. There it is.
There it
Okay,
is.
I quit. We lie to ourselves and say we're better than we actually are. And
Yep.
there may be some remnant, like what you were saying earlier. That remnant, that residue might
Yep.
be sitting there, but we never discuss it. We bury it and we think because it's buried, it's gone. But it's just like a seed, a natural seed that you plant outside. You may not see the growth right
Yep.
away, but in time, it's going to blossom. And
Mhm.
so those seeds that we have that we don't deal with, they grow. And so as God was, informing me of this niceness and beauty and stuff, he said, you forgave your father, but there's still some roots there that
Yep.
if you don't dig them up, they're going to begin to manifest and regrow. So you have to start talking about the honest feelings that you had. And I was like, I don't think anybody wants to know my honest feelings because they weren't nice. And God said, there are people out there who are going through what you went through, and
Yes.
they need to have a voice. They don't have a voice right now because they can't say it, but you can because you've overcome it. So
Mhm.
I begin the book talking about 9 storms I went through from the perspective of I'm still there. And then later in the book, I talk about the 9 ways I overcame them or I am overcoming them. And that's how it stems. So I talked about the 9 areas. Now, there are more, but the 9 areas that really shaped who I was and shaped my life. And
Mhm.
so the first one, of course, had to do with abandonment and the feelings that I had about my father not being there. And then me being a part of a family that I didn't feel I belonged in. And that was the first thing that shaped me, that abandonment issue, feeling
Mhm.
like I wasn't good enough. Remember, you talked about this earlier. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I did something wrong. Why don't you love me? Is it my complexion? Am I not smart enough? Do I
Right.
not have a good heart? Why won't you love me? And so, because of my father's abandonment, I began looking for love in different people.
Uh-huh.
Validate me, tell me I matter, confirm me, tell me something, let me know that I belong. And of course, nobody can do that. There's nobody that can validate you. You have to validate yourself. You have to know it. But your parents are the first ones that shape you. So if
Yes.
you feel love from them, you feel like you should be loved by everybody. Why
Yep.
not?
Yep.
But if you don't have that love, that unconditional love, you don't expect it from anybody, not even yourself. And so that's why I say no one can validate you because nobody can give you that except for your parents.
And
It
some people spend their whole life trying to get that validation from people and struggling trying to find that love, but until you approach the person who created the abandonment issues and have the conversation with them, you're not going to be able to move forward, and that goes back to your forgiveness
mm-hmm.
cycle.
Right. Now, for me, remember, my dad didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
So when I took Making Peace with Your Past, there was an element in there that I took for my own and I kind of twisted it. So you write a letter to the
Mhm.
person as if they're standing in front of you. And you say whatever you have to say as if they can't interrupt you, any
Mhm.
way that you want to say it. So there's no, you ain't got to worry about periods and commas, and you don't have to be grammatically correct. And if you might let an F bomb drop. Okay, however you got to get it out, get it out.
Right.
And this twist I did to that was once you write it, read it out loud to someone you trust, not just out into the air, but let that person be a representative of the person you're speaking to. There's something about you reading it out loud to someone that breaks chains. It breaks it. And then once you read the letter to that person, it has to be a trusted person. It
Right.
can't be just somebody on the street. You don't know me. No, no, no. This is somebody that matters to you because they are representing your love right now. And
Yes.
so once you read it to them, then you burn the letter. And that burned letter represents the root being pulled up and destroyed. You know, when crops get burned when the fire, they don't come back.
Come back. Right.
And so your feelings don't come back. Even if there's residue, you have taken out the main root. And now it's easier to take that weed out when it's this, where am I? This
Yep.
small
You're right
than
there.
when it's this big,
Uh
you know?
huh.
Thank you. Teamwork. Because I don't know where I am in this camera.
You were good though. You were right there. But that's symbolic of getting rid of the past when you write the letter to the person, and you read it to someone that's significant in your life, and then you burn it, and that kind of clears up every all the residue and all of that stuff left from that. Okay, awesome.
Yes. So that was the abandonment. Then I talked about rejection because remember, we talked about my complexion.
Uh huh.
And one of the things that stood out was I had a crush. You know, when you're in eighth grade, you just think the world is yours. You can conquer it all. And I had
Uh
a crush
huh.
on another boy who was in eighth grade. Not at my school, though. I went to a Catholic school.
Okay.
And he went to public school, but he would walk our way. He was my friend. And so this day I decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell him I have a crush on him. I know I can't date, but you can hang out at my house outside and play with us when we outside playing. And I told him about the crush, and he said, I don't date black girls. And I was confused because, like, when I saw you and met you, you were talking to black girls. So I didn't understand. And then he said, no, I don't mean black girls. I mean black girls, dark like you.
Uh huh.
And I was like, oh. He was like, you're pretty, you're smart, you got a nice shape, you're funny, but I can't date anybody that dark. And my world was crushed because I already
Wow.
had an issue with my
Mhm.
complexion.
Uh huh.
But this was like the last nail in the coffin. And I was crying. I ran home and I ran a tub of hot water and I went and got bleach because I was going to take a bleach bath in order to get this dark skin off of me.
Wow.
And like Karen said, the favor of God that was over me,
Uh
the
huh.
smell of bleach made me sick. And because it made me sick, I couldn't get into the water because I was, like I was going to hurl.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so I had to let the water go. That's the only reason I didn't do it because I wanted to
Wow.
get rid of this dark skin. I was tired of it. And I talk about how that shaped the future because I hated my skin. I hated the skin I was in. I hated me. I didn't wear bright colors. All my
Mhm.
life, I was told, don't wear red, don't wear yellow, don't wear pink. You're too dark for that. Don't wear lipstick. Your lips are too big. And when you put on lipstick, you look like a horse's patoot.
Uh huh.
I was told all these things and not by strangers, by family.
And I knew you for some reason. I knew you were gonna say that.
Because you know me, Fred. You know
Uh
we grew
huh.
up here together.
Uh huh. I'm like I knew you were gonna. And that's the thing. I don't. I think some family members don't realize, especially growing up as a child, the things that they say really stick and change your perspective of yourself because you're
Mhm.
like, well, they must know because they're my family members.
And
So
they're
I
adults.
believe, yeah, and they're adults, and I believe what they're saying. I think Karen had a question. How old were you when you were told they
I
told you
was
this about your
either
complexion?
12 or 13,
Wow.
12 or 13 years old. And so I carried that. I carried that for a long time. I would not wear bright colors. I stuck to black. Black became my
Wow.
favorite color, and then hunter green because I didn't stand out in it. I blended back. I wouldn't wear the color brown because I was like, that brown is lighter than me, so they're going to talk about me. So I
Uh-huh.
didn't do it. The only thing I had color were my nails.
Mhm.
I would do stuff like this back in the 80s because that wasn't a part of me. Those are my nails, so I can do bright colors.
So it's
It
like an
wasn't
extension.
until Right. It wasn't until my 30s that my oldest daughter forced me to wear a pink shirt and I had a meltdown in the store.
Really?
Yeah, we were going to a party to celebrate someone and I didn't have anything to wear. And so we were going to pick out an outfit. So of course I went to the black corner.
Uh-huh.
Because the store that we went is laid out by colors. Love is one of my favorite stores on the planet. And it was laid out by colors. So I went to the black side where I'm used to going. And
Uh-huh.
she was over there. I thought she was shopping for her. She came out with this pink shirt. It was a cute shirt, but who was wearing that? And she was
Uh-huh.
like, Mom, put this on. And yes, Karen. And she gave me the shirt, and I was like, I'm not wearing this.
Uh-huh.
And I threw it down because how dare you do this? You know, I don't wear those kind of colors. And so I went and I bought the black outfit. She went
Mhm.
and got the pink. And when we got to the house and I went to change, I couldn't find the black outfit. She hid it. And remember, I didn't have anything to wear. So I had to wear something or not go to the party. And I had to go to the party.
Uh-huh.
And so we argued, and I threw a tantrum like a 3-year old. I threw myself across the bed. I threw myself onto the floor. I kicked my legs. I screamed. I'm being really honest because
Uh-huh.
I could not wear this color. And I cried and cried. I was like this, crying because you're going to make me wear a bright color and I can't wear bright colors.
Wow. How old were
And
you when this happened?
32, 3, 4, somewhere around there.
So you're
34.
still carrying these things that people said with you, this baggage with you about your skin complexion.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so I put the shirt on because we had to leave and I didn't talk to her. I was mad. I was like driving the car just like in this little corner. Oh, let me go this way. In this little corner like
Uh-huh.
this. Because I didn't want to talk to her and I was angry and people were going to talk about me. And they did. Do you know what they said? Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. Why don't you
Yep.
wear that color? You look so good. I'm sitting here like, what is wrong with you
I knew.
liars? I was asking my daughter, I was like, how much did you pay them? And she was like, Mom, I wish you could see you the way we see you. And I was like,
Oh.
I do see me and I look ridiculous. But I just kept getting compliment after compliment after compliment because they had never seen me in a bright color.
Mhm.
And finally, whoever we went to the party for, I can't remember who it was, but she came over and she said, I will go to your house and burn every dark piece of clothing that you have.
Wow.
Because if you don't allow your skin tone to be seen, do you know what this looks like? And I cried in her arms because I was like, I don't understand. And from
Wow.
that day forward, slowly, not it wasn't a quick like, oh, slowly I would try it. And I would
Uh-huh.
go and look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, hmm. And then I was like, oh, wait, hmm. The layers started. Like you see now, I have on a bright shirt. I
Yep,
wouldn't have
yep,
done this. This
yep.
wouldn't be me. You have on that gorgeous red. I wouldn't have done
Uh-huh.
this. But now I got reds. I got all kinds of colors in my closet. And I thank my daughter for that. But that rejection, I wouldn't do it.
Wow. I tell
Mm-mm.
people you don't realize how much stuff you have carried in childhood. It's just like that exercise that you were saying. If you go stand in the mirror and you look at yourself, you still realize that you have some of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
buried deep down inside of you that you haven't let go. And then what people don't realize, you meet people in life that trigger those things that bring up that past stuff.
Yes.
And
Yes. Oof.
that's a lot. People don't realize that, and that's why you sometimes you meet people and you don't get along with them right away. That's why,
Mm-hmm.
because they're
Yeah.
triggering something from your past.
I never understood that. I'm so glad you said that. You should say that again because
Yep.
I didn't understand it.
Mhm.
Say it
Like
again.
like some people you run into and there's an instant like dislike or something. Usually they're triggering something
Mm.
from your past. And I see this meme on social media all the time, like um people get mad at you because you stir up their demons or something like
Mm.
that. It's kind of true. The triggers, because I've met people and I'm like, I don't, or they don't like me, and it's like, what is it? And I've seen. So we were in grad school. I'll tell y'all this story, and then I'll let you get back. We were in grad school. We were in a group, and it was a group class, and we had to work with each other to write a paper. Everybody had to write a piece of the paper, but
Mm-hmm.
there were two people in the group, a lady and a guy, and they just argued, bickered all the time. And so our professor was like, all of y'all are gonna get an F. if y'all don't come together as a group. So we stayed at Mercer University. We stayed there till 11 o'clock at night, trying to figure out why these two didn't like each other. Come to find out, they reminded each other of an ex-wife and a sister. And
Wow.
once they figured that out, it was smooth. And that's what I tell people: when you run into people and you instantly get a dislike, or vice versa, yeah, they've triggered something from your past.
Fred, didn't I tell you you should have been in my life a long time ago? How dare you not be in my life?
That's
Because
my
there were
middle name.
people
How
instantly I
dare?
did not like them, and I was like, I didn't understand. They didn't do anything to me. I just like, nope.
Mhm.
But that's what it was. And once
Yep.
the layers started getting pulled off, I don't have that reaction anymore.
Yep.
But I didn't
Because it.
know because Fred wasn't there to teach me.
So Pat, what did you say? My mom used to compare me to other girls. I had low
Oh,
self-esteem all through my teenage years. Yep. Your
I'm sorry.
parents teach you how to be who you are. So you actually listen to their opinions, and that's the thing. Everybody is not meant to be a parent.
Well,
That's
that's the word of the day.
yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Some of
It's
our parents are
unfortunate.
still stuck in their hurt and their pain, and they just have children and just spew all that bitterness and resentment on their kids. And
Yep.
that's what we were talking about earlier, Pat, because that's how I felt about my mother. She was a rageaholic. Like that was
Mm.
serious. We laugh about it. It's not funny. It really is a condition.
Right.
She dealt in rage, and her rage filtered into us. She should not have, she needed to heal. She still needs to heal.
To
That's
heal.
the thing. My
Hmm.
mother still doesn't see her blame in any of this. If you let her tell it, and I love my mom, but she'll tell you, I'm okay. I dealt
Yeah.
with it. I'm just like,
Like no.
okay, yes, you did. You dealt
Yeah.
with it
In your own way, right?
in your own little way. But I felt, and I know, Pat. We do need Dr. Fred. Come on,
Y'all
somebody.
sound like
He's
y'all
helping
sound
me
like
get
my
here.
clients. My clients will not miss a session. We got to make up this session because yeah. But no, it's because I've learned from my own experience, like stuff that I dealt with, and I write about it in my book. Is like I didn't realize until I got older how the past impacts your future. It really does.
Congratulations on your book. Hold on
Thank
now.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, come on, best-selling author.
Trying to follow
I'm
you. I'm
proud of
trying.
you.
Thank you, thank
Get
you.
his book.
Okay, we got some more stuff. I'm trying to keep up with everybody's comment. Um, Pat says I didn't get along with my mom growing up.
Oh, Pat, you and
Yeah,
I.
caring
I'm
for his.
sorry, Pat. I do understand.
Yeah, and that's the if you don't, it's almost to the back to the abandonment and then attachment. If you don't attach with your mom and your dad, you're gonna have problems growing up. There's attachment styles. If you've ever
Yeah,
been to therapy, you'll realize there's attachment styles, and if you don't attach with your mom or a dad in a healthy way, it kind of messes up your growth.
your whole growth.
Yeah,
Everything.
all of it.
You are so right. You're at the, but see, growing up, we didn't know this. We didn't
Right,
have the help. It wasn't made
right.
available to us. We couldn't talk about these things. You just had to be seen, not heard. You couldn't say
Yep,
things about your family. You had to keep everything in the house. And so, because I was raised that way, that's how I raised my kids. I
yep,
just knew I didn't want to be a mom like my mother. So I went the
yep,
opposite way, and it still didn't work. I was like,
yep.
wait a minute, why am
Because
I
you
messing
had
up?
something else. Yep, you had another side that was still there.
And then the rageaholic was in me. So a lot of my mother was in me, though I was trying to fight it and not be her, and I was being her.
Yep, and that's where people get because I think that sneaks up on you. Like you don't see it. Like because the thing is, mom probably wasn't always like that until something happened to her,
Right.
and then it happened. And so when we as children grow up, we don't see it developing because we weren't there when mom first it started happening to mom, and then before you know it, you're your mom or you're your dad. And so yeah, it's generational trauma, generation. All of that is just passed down.
That's true. I agree,
Karen's.
Karen. I try not to. I've seen myself do it when I'm trying to describe someone. I don't like saying light skinned. I
Karen
don't
doesn't
like to
either.
say that. I'm just
Uh-huh.
like she's lighter, but even that's subjective. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to make a conscious effort not to do that because it is a thing. And the
Yep.
crazy thing, Fred, is this. Now, see, I'm talking about the, okay, Karen, I got to use it, the dark skin situation. But I have friends who were fair and they talk about the stuff they went through. I never thought they went through anything because, from my eyes, it was just us because I was the
Uh-huh.
one that was talked about and talked down to. And some of my friends who are lighter didn't go
Uh-huh.
through it. So I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
y'all didn't have no pain. You don't know what pain is. I had to deal with this, and this. And I didn't realize that I wasn't the only complexion going through it. And so as I got older, I had to adapt and open up to, oh, others felt what I felt, even if they don't look like me.
Yep.
Okay, I get it. And you're absolutely, your mother, wow.
Yeah, because
I,
Karen
I,
always, she always says that. Because we had talked about this before, but she says, I'll read it out for everybody. Mom never let us talk about complexion because she was always called high yellow. Even today, I never describe people by their complexion because it is subjective. And the one thing that people, I hear people say, I used to hear people saying, oh, you're cute for a dark skinned person.
whew, if I had $1 for every time people thought that was a compliment, it was a slap in the face. I was
That's
like,
a
no,
slap. Yeah,
you're
it's
cute.
right. It's an
Leave it
insult.
alone. That is a slap in the face for uh, and so we're not supposed to be pretty. I would get so offended. I hate
Hmm.
that. I never say anybody's something for something. You just are or you're not.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
But
It
I
has
used to
nothing.
hate that. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, Fred, you got woo. Look, my hair starting to rise. I hate that. Or you're cute for a big girl.
Yep.
What?
Yep. Yep.
That what does that mean? I hate it. I wish we would stop doing it.
Yep.
Just compliment someone. You think they're pretty? Hey, you're pretty. That's it.
That's it. It doesn't have to be any attachments, adjectives, any of those things to it. But yeah, it's common things. That's what I try to tell people. Your words are so powerful, and make sure you pay attention before you speak them because, you know, just like Karen was saying, like the description of somebody, I never really paid attention to that. But yeah, that's important.
Come on. Did you see what Karen just said?
Uh huh. Says,
It's an insult.
uh, it isn't even a microaggression, it's an insult. Yeah, it's just an insult.
It's an insult. I don't find any pleasure in it. I don't smile about it. And I've gotten called conceited because
Uh-huh.
I wasn't happy with that compliment. Okay, well, I'll be conceited then. It's not a compliment. Because what
Cause
you're
yeah, why
saying,
you
if I looked any other way, I wouldn't be cute.
right.
It doesn't, no.
Exactly.
Mm-mm. You're
Cause
cute
you're
when you're
still
pretty.
ins
That's it.
yeah, cause you're still insulting my skin complexion.
Right. Because I'm just like, what gets me too, and I know this isn't the topic, but I have to say this that, there has been such a move in
Mhm.
mainstream America in the media to glorify. No, I don't need to say glorify. To put darker complexioned girls out in the media as if this is a new thing.
Right.
And I feel like they're saying you should be happy about this. My
Mhm.
thing is they've always been beautiful. You just
Right.
missed it.
You just
This
missed
is
it.
not a new thing. We
Right.
know we're all beautiful. No matter the complexion, we're beautiful. We're
Right.
just gorgeous. We just are. Period.
Mhm.
But now you're jumping, to make money off of it. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, it's
That
like a
part
trend.
annoys me. Now it's a cool
A
thing.
trend, right.
Yeah. No, don't do that. I'm happy to see us everywhere. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy.
Right.
Yay, woohoo. We're getting acknowledged. And I don't just mean darker skin, I'm talking about all of us.
Right.
We're
Us
getting
in general.
acknowledgement and we're
Right.
getting the parts now. We're getting the deals now. I'm excited for my people, but we've always been great.
Right.
Period. And I'm not putting African Americans above anybody else. I'm just saying we've always been great. We should
Right.
have always been celebrated. I'm just
Right.
happy. I just don't want you to make money off of it.
Right. 'Cause- and we don't want it to be like a trend because trends
Right.
fade, they go
We're here to
away.
stay, baby.
Yes. So yeah.
Aaron is gonna be like, please mute Andrea.
Nope, this is good stuff. So yeah, we went over our because we usually do like an hour. We done went over an hour.
Okay,
So
so
anything to close us out, Andrea, that you want us to know? Make sure. Let me find your website.
Karen. I love Karen. I love Pat. Oh my goodness. I love all of you. Thank you. You have
I
given me
told you
such
you would
life.
have a
I may
good.
have to write another book. Okay, so Seeing Past the Storm. Those are just two of the storms. I talk about some of the other storms, violation. I was almost raped in college, and I talk about that because yet again, something happened to take away my voice.
Uh
Something
huh.
happened that caused me to fold back into myself and to be angry and to be bitter and to carry. So I carried a lot of different things that happened throughout the years.
Uh huh.
And it all still, to me, stemmed from the very first heartbreak, the very first heartache that never got dealt with. And I didn't know how to deal with it until the forgiveness came. And once that happened, things began, oh, seeing past the storm. Oh, you can't even see it's too glittery.
And
Seeing
move
past
your
the
hand.
storm.
Put your hand on the side.
You got to train me up in the way I should go. It's Seeing Past the Storm. It's on my website, AndreaJoyce.net, if you want an autograph copy. It's also available on Amazon, and Barnes and Noble. Um, and I talk about some real things, and I want it to be a help to people because there are those who don't have a voice. There are those who've gone through abandonment, um, resent, rejection,
Mhm.
violation. I talk about going through betrayal by friends because we have
Oh
friends. We can
yeah.
talk about that a whole. That'd be a whole different
That a
show.
whole. We're gonna have to have you back because you have a lot.
Fred and I,
To,
we could talk about friends.
uh,
Since we're so similar, Fred, I know we've got some stories about friends.
oh yeah.
So, and those are some of them that I went through, and I would like it to be a guide, me helping you by telling my story. Later this year in September, actually on my birthday, that's my pub date of the journal to Seeing Past the Storm. It's called Triumph Through the Storm, and it's a self guided journal where I talk a little bit about the topics that are in Seeing Past the Storm, but then I give you questions, I give you activities,
Oh
I
nice.
give you projects to work on so that you can heal. Because just because I had this pain, you may not have. Your pain may
Mhm.
not look like this, but it's similar enough that you can use the steps I use to go ahead and heal.
I think I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
yay,
put a.
Karen loves journals.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to put a conference together with all the authors that I've had on this show because
Do it,
you're the
Fred,
second
do
one.
it.
Yeah, you're the second one that talked about journals and everybody was interested in this journal and how to work through this and I thought that would be like a good
Oh, I
group
love it. I
conference
love that.
type thing. So I'm gonna have to pull something
I'll be a,
together and get all
I'll be
these
a
authors.
panelist and I'll be a participant because I'll be there. I told you I was taking notes. I got my pen. I need to learn. Healing is so important to me,
It
and
is.
you can learn about healing from anybody. And I love it. When I hear
Yep.
something, that's why I was like, Fred, say that again. Because see, I
Mhm.
was listening and I was writing. Because I
Uh-huh.
was like, I need this from my life when I feel like I have a wall of affirmations, things that I
Mhm.
speak to myself, not just the I am great. It's the things that really matter. Like,
Right.
don't let the things you're going through derail you from your future. My cousin
Mhm.
said that, and I put it on the wall. There's some things you said, Fred, I'm going to put on my wall because I really believe healing is an everyday event.
It
It
is.
doesn't just happen once and done. It's not okay, like we were talking about insurance. Some insurances only let you have 12, 10 sessions and that's it.
Right.
Healing is not done just like that. It's constant.
Right.
And that's why I think it should be a lifetime.
Right.
You may heal in one area and then you realize, uh-oh, I have a problem here. It
Well,
starts with layers. Go ahead.
mhm.
Go ahead. Say what you're going to
And
say because I know what you're about
and
to say.
That's what happens in therapy sessions. Like we'll work through one thing and then they'll say, "You know what? This just made me think of this other thing that's been bothering me that I've been just letting sit here." So that's how therapy works in my sessions. And so you're so right. Like you start with one thing, but then I want to piggyback off of what you said that I learn from my clients when they come in there and they're dealing with something, it makes me go do self-reflection like you mentioned earlier of myself because I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that I'm doing that." The thing that they're talking about, I'm still doing that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I love therapy because therapists need healing too. I
Yes.
posted on Facebook, who is there for the therapist? Who's
Right.
there for the who counsels the counselor?
Right.
And people were like, "Oh, I never thought of it.
Oh,
We
that
are
was
all
one thing
human."
we had
Even
to
if
do
we've
that.
gone through training, like I'm a
Yep.
certified life coach. I actually
Uh-huh.
went through the training to become
Mhm.
a life coach. I've gone through training to be a counselor. I'm licensed to be a counselor. I got
Mhm.
it through my church. You see what I went through, right?
Right.
I need help.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think
see
we
that
can
in
do
our
this for each
program, you
other.
had to go. Yeah, you had to go see a therapist because you needed to understand. Like, there's things. We had a course where we had to come in and tell them something we've never talked about before about
Wow.
ourselves and we were all in there crying and so we've
Mm,
been through all the stuff so we know how therapy is really effective. Like I have so many people that will come and tell you, "Oh my gosh, they started one way and then a
mhm.
year later they're just like a whole different person because they release talking about grief. Grief, I have one
Wow.
guy who lost his mom was just tore up the entire time and we just talked about that mom all in every session almost.
Um,
He wrote a letter to I used that he wrote a letter to her. All of those things and it made him cry. But a year later, he was fine. He could handle the grief. It was
wow.
bearable and so it
Yes.
does work, you know.
Go ahead,
But
Fred. I'm so proud to know you.
I would love you too. All this knowledge that you have and all the experience that you have, we have got to put something in all the other because in one session we talked about trauma bonds. I don't know if you've ever heard about
Oh, when you're traumatized over something and you link with somebody else, you're broken, they're broken, but y'all want to link together and think you're going to have
Yep.
something healthy. Fred, come on.
We had a
Come on.
show. We had
You got
somebody
to
come
do
on
it.
and
I'm
we
going to
had
come
a
on every week. I think I'm like, please get somebody else. I'm like, no, I'm in here learning. I'm
yeah,
learning.
we
This is some good stuff. I didn't know. Oh, I
oh
have to
yeah.
post you everywhere now. I didn't know
Yeah.
all of this was happening. See, the
Oh,
thing with Facebook, love you, Facebook, but if you don't constantly stay on somebody's page by
yep.
going, you don't see stuff.
Yep.
I did not know all of this was happening. I see your post. I'm like, oh, I love Fred. He's so yes. I know. I love Fred. It's deep now. This down, down deep. I
But
didn't
it's
know
because
all of this.
authors like you, like I'm learning from you right now of the things you went over. It just reinforces some of the stuff I knew, but then it also you brought some new stuff that I'm like, oh, I'm going back and write that down and look that up because I think. But I've had so many people on here, and everybody can um, testify to this. We have learned some good stuff from the authors that I've had coming on. Trauma bonds, and I had a guy on here talking about Let's Heal and he had a workbook and we wanted to work through that. That's why I say when you said that again, that's confirmation that we really need to do that.
Yeah, I can see it. I know we're winding down, but I can see you doing like a panel and then having an activity. I'm here for it. You just let me know. Whatever you want me to do. I'm telling you, I'll be a panelist if you want me to. I'll be a participant. I'll be up there with my pen writing.
I'm gonna put that together. I'm gonna go find a spot and we just
I'm so excited. Karen, he's
yeah.
gonna do it. Oh, Karen from Connecticut. Come on, Tri-State. That's my home girl. Come on. Yes. Yeah,
she
I will
says
be watching. I promise you that. So this is every Friday?
yes. It probably won't be next Friday because that's Easter, I think.
It
But
is. It's
yeah,
Good Friday. Yes.
because I have another guy who has a workbook. Actually, his book is a workbook. I'm gonna have him on the following week after Easter weekend.
Okay.
But yeah, I
I'll
try
be
to get
I'll
different
take
guests.
note.
So, yeah, so that they bring in. because I'm learning too. I'm learning right along with everybody else, and it helps strengthen me and helps me do self reflection and try to be better. Because, like you said, healing takes place all your life. Like
Your
it's
whole
not just
life.
a one time thing. And some people think they're healed. They think they're all right, but then stuff starts falling apart in their lives and they're like, what is happening? Because there's something you still haven't processed. There's
And,
something.
and Fred, if I can suggest that you
Hmm.
don't always have to have an author on, you can
Oh, I
have a
don't.
open. Okay, I was gonna say
I
because
don't.
this what you just said right now. I need you to do a show on the people who. Oh, thank you, Karen, homie. That's big homie right there. What you just said is so important. It should be a show where you talk about people who don't think they need healing. Those are the biggest ones that need healing. Like I have some family members, they're
Hmm.
holding on to stuff. And I'm just like, they don't even realize that they're hurt and
Yep.
hurting people. And I'm just
Yep.
like, I need you to have a show because I need to know how do you tell them I love you, but you're a mess.
You're hurt. Yeah, and you're hurt. Especially somebody who's lost a parent and they haven't processed it. That's a big one. Like,
Yeah, I need you to do that show. I'm gonna be on anyway, listening. But that one, I need to take notes because I feel for them. Like I'm an open book now
uh-huh.
because it's like God has embarrassed me. So there's no need to be ashamed of anything I've gone through because God already told it.
Hmm.
So I have to go ahead and speak on it. But I have family members that are closeted with their feelings and their emotions, and I see them like being eaten up from the inside out and they're
Yep.
turning into people that I'm just I'm hurt. Oh, Pat is leaving. Okay, I'm done. I promise you, Pat.
Okay, Pat, we're getting ready to wrap it up too. We'll keep. I'm gonna have to have you back on for part two because we keep
Yes, I
we
would
keep.
love it because I got to take more notes. I'm sitting at your feet. Remember how Mary did with Jesus? She was
Uh
just sitting
huh.
at his feet and learning. I think we need to do more of that. We don't
Okay.
have all the answers, but I'm just learning this is good. And you're easy. I see why you're a therapist. I see it.
Yeah. And I try to make therapy sessions. They are. I try to make them easy because we get. I bond with you, get to know you, and then we just dig into stuff. And so, but I feel the same way about you. Like it's we're an hour in. We almost 2 hours. No, well, we started at 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock. Um,
Ooh,
so
I
yeah,
told you I talk too much.
I want you to come back part two. We got to do
I
a part two.
absolutely will. You just tell me when. You see
Okay.
how quick I told you I flow Joe to get to you. I was not gonna miss it.
Okay. So we're gonna do a part two. I'll let you know. Maybe it'll be after Easter. Maybe that'll be
Okay.
you, and then
And
I'll
we'll talk about
push
some
the
of the other chapters. And maybe we'll
chapters.
go into one chapter and get dig into it and maybe have like a session where people can say things and we can help them or something.
Yes.
However you
Okay.
want to do it. I'm good
I
with it.
I like that. I like that idea. I like that format. All right. So thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. I've
Thank you
been
for
putting your
having me.
website up so people if they're listening to this after hours, all of that's going to pop up when we're talking because I've been posting it the whole week. But if you get
Thank
a
you.
chance, visit her website, order books. They're going to help you.
I hope
I've ordered one. I'm going to order some more because I use some of the stuff in therapy with people.
I
So,
love you. Thank
all
you.
right.
I appreciate you so much.
All right, y'all. Love you too, and thank you for being a guest. And all right, y'all, we're giving you your weekend night back, and I will talk to y'all not next week, but the following week, because that's Easter. So,
I'll be here.
all right. Good
Love
night,
you
y'all.
guys. Good night. Good night.